calls on Corey Weathers. No problem,
Good
Mary.
afternoon. My name is Corey Weathers. I'm a licensed professional counselor in 3 states, currently at the time, Texas being one of them. I'm a supervisor in the state of Virginia, and I'm also an active duty military spouse. We're currently stationed at Fort Cavazos. Thank you so much for the opportunity to have this conversation today. As Jeremy mentioned, this is super, super important. So what I thought I would do for the testimony today is just give you a visual of the kind of correspondence that it's taken for me to have a license and transfer my license over the course of our time. It's 16 years serving in the military. This is a common story for a lot of military spouses. Mine is not an exception. So to start, I was already working towards a Georgia license when my husband joined the Army. We were stationed in Colorado, and I could not work in Colorado to keep working on that Georgia license without a license in Colorado. So I applied for a license in Colorado, and my paperwork sat on someone's desk for 2 years until they finally gave me a license. At that point, they moved us back to Georgia. While we were in Georgia, that whole battle was a bloody battle that took 6 years to get my license in Georgia. At the end of the day, it was an argument over the requirements of Georgia versus Kentucky, where I got my education. By the time I finally got my Georgia license, we moved to Virginia. This was Georgia. By the time we got to Virginia, I was really excited to find out that they were expediting military spouse applications, and I was really excited to get my license within 2 months and also become a supervisor for the state of Virginia shortly thereafter. When we moved, this was Virginia. Then we moved to Kansas in 2019, where they surprisingly had what was new for us at the time, which was provisional temporary licenses for military spouses. So I thought, let's try that. We were only stationed there for a year, and I was really excited to get that provisional license within 1 month. And I think in my books, Kansas won, in that this was also during the COVID pandemic lockdown. Now that sounds really wonderful. I'm getting two positive experiences in 2 different states, but it's really important for you to understand that getting your license to practice is only the first step. At that point, for a lot of our medical professionals, a lot of our mental health professionals, now we have to credential with a lot of the insurance companies, go for those interviews to get those jobs. So even though I was having a good experience with both Kansas and Virginia, I was fighting a very tough battle with TRICARE, of all insurance panels, to get credentialed. And 2 years it took me to get credentialed with TRICARE, all because they could not understand why my address kept changing. So this was my fight with TRICARE, which culminated in me having a little bit of a nervous breakdown and almost quitting my profession altogether. At that point, my husband gave me the wonderful blessing to be open about my struggle, considering there was so many other spouses going through the same thing. So I recorded my open letter to TRICARE video that I did not realize would go viral. It went all the way to the Department of Labor and then to the House and Senate to help push some of the initiatives that we are talking about today. I'm very proud of that, and I'm really grateful that my husband was supportive of that opportunity. But it's really important to understand that even though all of those good things were starting to happen, you can understand the angst that is attached to the next state's application by the time you move again. In this case, it was moving to Texas. I had had positive experiences, I had negative experiences, and I also knew that we had initiatives that were actually trying to make a difference. So by the time I got to Texas, I was really excited to apply in Texas. By the way, my son is in the Corps of Cadets at Texas A&M right now. This is a whole other conversation that I'm happy to expand on, but he is one of those that is waiting on a waiver to get into the Air Force for a minor issue that has since been cleared. But by the time I applied for Texas, I was really excited to see that there was a military spouse form specifically that would help expedite those packets. But after months of not being able to get anybody to pick up the phone and getting 2 other states involved in order to get my license transferred to Texas, I finally, at the end of 5 months, heard from Texas where they said that they did not think that I had enough experience to qualify for a Texas license. Mind you, I had been 16, and they asked me to go back for supervision in order to get the experience that I needed in order to practice in Texas. Mind you, I've been out of school for 16 years. I've not had any contact with supervisors for 14 years. I have been practicing for 9 years, and I'm a supervisor myself in another state for 3 years. Contrast that with the fact that Texas regulation actually states that military service members can get credit for their service and obtaining potentially a waiver to get their license quickly just because of their service. My husband is a U.S. Army chaplain. He's been serving for 16 years. He has a master's of counseling, has never had supervision, and that basically says he could get a license faster than me. So I've been here in Texas for now 5 years. Thankfully, I am practicing in the state of Texas, and I've also pivoted my career to be creative. It's something that a lot of military spouses don't have the privilege to do. In preparation of coming today, I polled a lot of military spouse mental health clinicians who have either secured a license in Texas or are trying to. And I can tell you that there's definitely some progress that Texas is making, but a lot of the concerns and frustration are very similar to the story that I'm sharing with you today. Today's conversation is not about bending rules around 1% of the population that is serving our country. From my perspective, this is an opportunity for a quadruple win. Number one, this is about the people of Texas getting a win. You have an incredible opportunity for high performers, culturally competent professionals in your education system, in your medical system, in your mental health system that are coming into this state that want to help you with the provider shortages, and they want to help the good citizens of Texas. So it's a win for the people. Number two, this is a win for those military spouses like me who did not know that we were going to come to Texas, did not ask to come to Texas. A little bit of a lie, we asked to come to Texas. But many who don't ask to come to the places they do, but really want the right to continue to build their career and have the opportunity and be eager to serve your constituents. Number three, this is a win for the state of Texas. You have an incredible opportunity to be a state that actually models what it means to hold your sovereignty as a state, but also completely change the needs of your state by accepting the amazing talent that is coming into your state, but also leaving the state, and many of them can continue to serve your people, your constituents, and some of the greatest needs by using telehealth. Even if we're stationed somewhere else, I can continue to serve in Texas. And last, this is a matter of national security, and I'm not exaggerating when it comes down to that. You just had an amazing panel on recruitment. For me, I pivoted my work. I do a little bit of counseling, but now I study the military culture. I study from a psychological perspective what is going on in our military culture from a generational perspective. I can tell you by historically, 82% of your new recruits come from military families, traditionally. That means
What percent?
82% historically of your newest recruits come from military families. Just like my son, who is waiting on a waiver to come into the Air Force. Those 82% that you're trying to recruit, who are most likely to join this warrior caste, is what it's becoming. They are the ones who have watched their parents go through not only what I've gone through, but also what we've gone through in 2 decades of global conflict. So number one, recruiting, this makes a huge difference as my son is getting every day more discouraged and thinking of pulling his packet to join the Air Force. And last, in studying what's going on in our military culture today, there is a mass exodus of our millennial generation for sure. A lot of us Gen X are trying to wait to get across that 20-year retirement line. But for a lot of the millennial generation, they are leaving because they are not going to come in to a force that makes it this complicated for their family to have a dual income. But some of them are also leaving because their service members do not want to continue to pick up their spouse off the floor like my husband did, to encourage them to fight for something that is this hard. There's a lot of quick wins, and there's a lot of great ways that we can play the long game here. I heard the numbers that the last panel threw out for education and the money that's needed. There's a lot of things that we can do that cost next to nothing to solve some of this problem. So thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward to your questions.
Wow. Thank you. Excellent testimony.